So I'm a marketer. I also know how to write code, and I've been thinking a lot about what kind of content we could produce that would be useful to the resort marketing community. And I talked about to some people about guides or playbooks. We've done some of those, and they've been very well received. But as I had these conversations, the same thing kept coming up, and that is these skills, this number of skills that marketers wish they had. Not to the level of a professional, but just to a level where they would feel comfortable in doing some of the work themselves when it was required of them or when they had no other option. And number one on that list, I did some surveys to find out it was number one. The number one on that list was HTML and CSS. This is something that marketers like you and me face pretty regularly, right? We maybe need to edit a page in WordPress. We have to toggle over to the editor view, or we need to tweak an email before it goes out, or our CRM or our ESP gives us a form that we need to embed into our website, or the list goes on and on. And the trick is that when we see code like this here on the right, we sometimes just freeze. We know it's not necessarily complicated. We have rough ideas of how it works, but we don't feel confident enough in how those different pieces work together, what might break things, what wouldn't, to really go in there and make changes. So what we're going to do with this series, this bit of content, is try teaching this skill from my perspective as someone who's written code for a long time. I'm not a professional, but I've done it for about 15 years. But as someone who's also a marketer, so I understand what kind of needs to be changed and what those common requests and tasks are. We're going to do this in a way that's a little bit different, though. If you wanted to go out and find a course to teach you email or HTML from scratch, you absolutely could. And there are some fantastic resources out there. I found one the other day for someone who wanted to learn from scratch, and I couldn't believe how thorough and interactive it was. But it was a big, long course. This is weeks or months to go end to end for a normal working person with a day job. And so the approach that I'm going to take is a little bit different. I'm not going to start from scratch. I'm just going to teach you the basics of how it works. For a simple example, I'm going to teach you how tags work or how CSS properties work, but I'm not going to teach you every single property. You can Google when you're faced with a new property how that one works specifically, but if you understand the concept of what it's doing and how it controls style and where it sits in the page and what might break it, that's what we're going to focus on. And that last point is an important one, I think. I really want to focus on what might break. We're going to focus on HTML and CSS, but I want to follow up at the end of this series and talk about some of those other languages you might face, just so you are aware when you are looking at code that could significantly impact the page and know just to stay away from it. So in this course, we're going to talk about HTML, CSS. We're going to talk about how to change those common things we need to change as marketers. We're going to talk about the common pitfalls, things that usually break HTML or CSS, but we're not going to start from scratch, and we're not going to teach you how to write a whole page from scratch. If you want to do that, we're happy to recommend some resources. That sounds good to you? Buckle in, do whatever you need to do, grab a drink, and let's jump in.